Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. Okay, so I am here today with the introduction video to Sagittarius season. So with that in mind, I just want to say happy birthday to all of you solar Sagittarians out there. It is your season. It's time to shine and all that good stuff. But with that being said, what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be addressing the sign of Sagittarius by looking at your Sagittarius house, followed by your Jupiter sign and house, and finishing up by addressing your 9th house within your natal birth chart. And all of this is to be explained with the intention of just really, well, explaining the archetype of Sagittarius overall. However, before we do get into this, what I want to know is, do you have any planets within the sign of Sagittarius? Do you not have any planets in there? Or what's your Jupiter sign? What is your Jupiter placement? Have you got any planets in your 9th house within your chart? Let us know in the comment section down below. I also want to mention that the Sagittarius season book is now available for download by clicking the link below in the description box. So within this book, it's going to be talking about, well, all things Sagittarius, of course. It talks about the mythology of Sagittarius, talks about the symbolism, also looks at the Jupiter symbol as well, Sagittarius through the houses, Jupiter signs, and really it's just a practical how-to guide just to really show you how the sign or archetype of Sagittarius manifests within the real world. And also a quick thing to mention is that retrogrades, so Jupiter retrograde, natally, and also during a transit is mentioned in here, as well as interceptions. So if you have Sagittarius intercepted or Jupiter intercepted, and even your 9th house intercepted, it's in this book. So like I said, it's available for download in the description box. And just a quick shout out to the illustrator. Okay, so Lily created this incredible illustration for the book. It is gorgeous, so thank you to Lily. Alright, so with all those introductions out of the way, let's do this. Right, so for more information all about archetypes, then please be sure to check out my introduction video. But in a nutshell, an archetype is a primitive mental image derived from the collective unconscious. When it comes to the sign of Sagittarius, the mental image associated with this archetype is what looks like a bow and an arrow. Of course, these things are linked with the archer or the centaur archetype. See, centaurs were known for being wild and inhospitable creatures. They were rowdy, rugged, and pretty damn rude. And they often give into their animal passions and desires. However, they were also widely known for being mystical and wise as well, suggesting that the symbol of Sagittarius represents this duality playing out between wild and wise, between mortal and immortal, between earthbound and heavenly bound. Now, it's this bow and arrow that can also signify the flight and adventure into unknown territories and experiences. It's really about expanding the scope of view or vision so that new opportunities can be explored. And by doing so, we gain knowledge and learn from what we discover. And then what we do is we teach others, we share with others what we have learned. But in order to plunge ourselves forward into something new, we must take a leap of faith. And a little positivity may just go a long way as well. Therefore, it's the symbol of Sagittarius that is about growth, expansion, and widening our horizons or world view. It shows us our desire to quest, discover, and reach new heights of awareness through gaining more knowledge. We are encouraged through this archetype to question knowledge while simultaneously sharing our experiences with others at the same time. Of course, this is another duality playing out. And we also realize that whilst yes, our time on Earth is limited, being the more mortal side, but the experiences and the knowledge that we gain, well, that is more on the immortal side, because we're constantly learning, we're constantly growing whilst we do evolve. After all, not one single individual on this earth knows everything. And if they did, I'm sure they'd be exhausted. Now, before we do go any further into the archetype of Sagittarius, let's actually take this a step back and identify where we are coming from by addressing Scorpio. And what we learn from Scorpio season is how to dig deep into our subconscious and hidden facets. And by doing so, we are presented with the potentiality to transform and evolve. We may discover some pretty damn ugly, horrendous, and sinister qualities about ourselves whilst we are taking a look into our psyche. But we may also discover some pretty powerful qualities as well. You see, it's through the sign of Scorpio that we realize that we all come with some kind of emotional baggage or traumas to work through. And we also realize that strength can be found in unraveling our weaknesses. And most of all, we realize that we have the power and the resilience to tackle our inner fears and emotional complexes. However, as we then move on to Sagittarius season, the dialogue changes. The dialogue changes drastically because it's Sagittarius season that helps us now broaden our experience by seeking future aspirations and goals that inspire and uplift us. We are encouraged to seek new ways of showing up in the world. And so we come out of a more inner, darker period, being Scorpio season, and then we plunge forward into a much more open and freeing period, being Sagittarius season. It's Sagittarius that supports us, supports you on your quest to focus your attention on new possibilities and opportunities within your life. We become more open to new perspectives, and by doing so, we are able to identify new movements and actions that are more positive and inspirational. And above all else, we realize that knowledge is power. We realize that we are stronger than we think, and that our transformation had a meaning and it existed for a reason. So what was the meaning for you? Well, that's for you to discover. So tell us, what have you learned from the journey so far? What runs true for you from your experience within the last 8 to 9 months throughout the astrological year? Or even better still, what runs true for you from birth? How old are you, for example? What have you experienced throughout your life? Maybe you're a 16-year-old girl watching this. Or maybe you're a 35-year-old man watching this. Maybe you grew up in France. Maybe you grew up in Canada. Where are you located geographically? Because it's these types of things that are really very relevant when it comes to your experience. And not only to your experience, but your knowledge and understanding as well. For example, a 10-year-old's knowledge on geography will most likely be a lot different to a 30-year-old's knowledge on geography. Therefore, it's the archetype of Sagittarius that highlights the importance of growth and expansion. But growth and expansion in many different directions. Many factors including your gender, your age, your destination, your race, your education, your belief systems, your philosophy, your religion, travel, law. There are many things to consider when it comes to growth and expansion. Therefore, what we learn from this mighty archetype is how to remain open. I mean, have you ever traveled to another country and experienced culture shock? I certainly did whenever I was a 26-year-old woman Born in Northern Ireland, when I traveled to Marrakesh in Morocco, the way of life there was just so alien to me. I had never experienced anything like it, but it was exciting. It was adventurous. I had a really enjoyable time. Did I understand the way of life? No. For example, when I saw monkeys being chained in the middle of the square in Marrakesh, I felt kind of uncomfortable. But did I understand why those monkeys were chained? No. However, if I were to ask the native people about this, then I'm sure they would happily tell me why. Meaning that it's the archetype of Sagittarius that encourages us not only to question our experiences, but to also understand our experiences. Through seeking knowledge, understanding, and awareness, we learn so much from other people's customs, laws, and ethics. Which, by the way, remember that your ethics, your morals, they're subject to change. 2 years ago, for example, my morals or ethics was to not eat meat because I thought it was just so wrong. But today, I have a completely opposite opinion. Ultimately, it's the archetype of Sagittarius that signifies our never-ending journey of discovery. Now, Sagittarius is a fire sign, meaning that it's connected with creation and action. Sagittarius is also a mutable sign, meaning that it's adjustable, adaptable, and open to change. And so with this mutable fire combination, well, it results in a sign concerned with adapting to creation and being open to new courses of action. So for example, developing a new way of creating within a relationship. Now what I'm actually going to do is I am going to play some clips from media that I personally think can be associated with the archetype of Sagittarius. Now, wherever Sagittarius is located within your birth chart, it is going to show you where you seek to discover new and mind-opening knowledge as a way to broaden your perspective. It's really an area of life where you learn how to not only question your experience, but to also understand your experience. So for example, if you have the sign of Sagittarius ruling your second house, you may gain a new awareness into your accumulation of finances by seeking out knowledge on the likes of investments, property, business, budgeting, management. Likewise, if you have the sign of Sagittarius ruling your fifth house, you may gain a sense of awareness into your spare time hobbies or pursuits by seeking out knowledge within the likes of archery, mountain climbing, hiking, adventure sports. Another thing about the Sagittarius house is it will show you where you look forward into fortunes for your prosperous future. After all, Sagittarius is a future aspirational sign, and it's also connected with fortune, luck, and blessings. However, it's also important to keep in mind that there is a huge lesson to learn from being positive and optimistic, meaning that it's really beneficial to remain positive on your journey, because by doing so we will be less likely to find ourselves just constantly trying to obtain happiness or fortune all the time. Happiness today is often seen as something to gain, and in a world where we're constantly seeking, and in a world where we're constantly wanting more, it can be difficult to feel content with what we already have. Of course, there's nothing wrong with wanting to obtain more for ourselves, but it's this same attitude that can lead to greed and just being really dissatisfied. And in this way, you can sort of see how Sagittarius can be connected with the whole law of attraction and manifestation. So for example, if you have the sign of Sagittarius ruling your 7th house, you may possess future aspirations when it comes to your relationships. You may even find much fortune and blessings through your significant other. Or you may just possibly meet your significant other abroad. But you may also look at the relationship as a way to fill your pockets. Or you may decide, you know what, I am out of here, I'm away, bon voyage. Suggesting that you might not be willing to commit long term. Likewise, if you have the sign of Sagittarius ruling your 10th house, you may possess future aspirations towards creating a prosperous career. But you may also start to overextend yourself, bite off more than you can chew by taking on a lot of different projects. Yes, you may find fortune through your chosen career, but yet you may also struggle to remain in one for long enough before you become restless, wanting to seek something new. Furthermore, the Sagittarius house can be an area of life where we seek to do things outside of our comfort zone. So for example, if you have Sagittarius ruling your 1st house, you may do things outside of your comfort zone when it comes to your physical appearance and your characteristics. You may try out new approaches. Likewise, if you have Sagittarius ruling your 4th house, you may seek to do things outside of your comfort zone by living in different houses. Or you may decide just to pack your bags one day and go off to travel away from home somewhere. Sagittarius also teaches us about morality and ethical codes that are weaved into our belief systems. So it's within your Sagittarius house where you come to terms with your own morals or ethics. So for example, if you have Sagittarius ruling your 6th house, you may base your diet or your nutrition upon your morals or ethics. Likewise, if you have Sagittarius ruling your 12th house, you may base your spiritual practices upon your morals or ethics. The Sagittarius house as well can signify where you go overboard, where you overextend, where you bite off more than you can chew, and it can also show you where you lack responsibility and are rather careless. So for example, if you have Sagittarius ruling your 8th house, you may go overboard or be careless when it comes to intimacy or when it comes to joint accounts between you and your intimate partner. Likewise, if you have Sagittarius ruling your 11th house, you may overextend yourself or lack responsibility when it comes to friendship commitments. You may cancel meetings, you may forget to reply to messages. But what does it mean if you have a planet within the sign of Sagittarius? Well, of course it depends on the planet itself, but the energy of that planet is being placed into this expansive, eager, adventurous, and highly enthusiastic sign. So resulting in that planet being manifested into a rather larger than life way. So if you have your moon in Sagittarius, you may be great at uplifting the moods of others, but you may also not be very comfortable or feel comfortable with negative or pessimistic people who dampen your mood. You may also find comfort in the wild, wide outdoors. So going camping, for example, may provide you with much emotional security. Let's say you have your Mercury within the sign of Sagittarius. You may talk so widely with so much eagerness just to share your thoughts and your opinions with other people. And most likely you will be the one talking the most within a group, or you just may strongly dislike awkward silences. Let's say you have Venus in Sagittarius. There is a robustness and eagerness just to jump into love and relationships. You may really enjoy meeting new people as a way to explore what new things you can learn from them. There's just many new opportunities to gain from your relationships. But what if you have a stellium within the sign of Sagittarius, meaning that it's 4 or more planets within this sign? Well, again, it depends on the planets themselves, but with this high volume of Sagittarius energy going on here, well, it may just result in a person who is highly free-spirited, positive, adventurous, upbeat, funny, spontaneous, expansive, but it may also result in a highly loud, rude, blunt, inconsiderate person who thinks highly of themselves to the point of never apologizing for anything because nothing is ever your fault, and so you just expect to be praised and worshipped by other people. And you may also be rather careless and irresponsible. Now, when it comes to the ruling planet of Sagittarius, Jupiter, well, it is your Jupiter sign that will show you how you expand and create more. It takes what is already available and it seeks to grow it in size, mass, and quantity. It constantly seeks more freedom and limitlessness, meaning that it's Jupiter that increases whatever it touches. But let's actually add in the houses here, because it's really the house or the area of life that will show you where all of this is playing out. So for example, if you have Jupiter in Aries in the 4th house, you may seek to create more within your home, but you will do it by being direct, forward, and really passionate. You may get into arguments with family members if they don't give you what you want. Let's say you have Jupiter in Scorpio in the 6th house. You may seek to create more when it comes to refining your skills on the job, but you will do it by being intimidating as hell. You may manipulate others into getting what you want, or you may know exactly which information to share or not to share with other people as a way to gain more power from within the workplace. Now, Jupiter is also a planet that searches for truth. This, of course, is a pretty debatable subject given today with how many people are speaking their truth online. But there is, of course, a difference between what is absolute truth and what is relative truth. For example, 1 + 1 will always equal 2. This is an absolute truth. To disagree with this truth would be to deny the law of mass, which, by the way, Jupiter and Sagittarius rule over law, the supreme courts within astrology. But still, if someone was to deny this truth, that would be their relative truth, which, of course, relative truths are subject to change. Our relative truths can be shaped by our morality, our ethics, our beliefs, our experiences, and our philosophies. It's really your Jupiter sign that can represent how you broadcast or share your truth. And it also represents how you teach and share knowledge with others, as well as how you search for knowledge. So if you have Jupiter in Gemini, well, you may share your truth or knowledge in a rather scattered or logical way. But if you have Jupiter in Cancer, you may share your truth or knowledge in a rather supportive and caring, thoughtful way. And naturally, wherever Jupiter is placed, it can show you where you search for knowledge and teach others about your knowledge. So if you have Jupiter in the 4th house, you may search for knowledge within the comfort of your own home. So just being at home, doing a lot of research at home, these types of things. Or you may search knowledge when it comes to your ancestry. So looking at your heritage, looking at your past. If you have Jupiter in the 12th house, you may search for knowledge within the likes of film, poetry, photography, music. But then if you have Jupiter in the 6th house, you may really quest and search for knowledge when it comes to the likes of diet and nutrition and health and fitness. Now, Jupiter also has the ability to turn most situations into opportunities for growth, expansion, and experience. It also helps guide you through the likes of prayer, meaning, and inspiration. It's really the function of Jupiter that helps you stay positive and hopeful even through hard times, meaning that it's Jupiter that encourages you to see the silver lining. So if you have Jupiter in Leo, for example, you may turn situations into opportunities by being fearless, or by taking a chance, or by being confident. But if you have Jupiter in Libra, you may seek guidance through your significant other, through your spouse. Or if you have Jupiter in Capricorn, you may stay positive by just being realistic towards what is actually possible. Now, wherever Jupiter is placed within your natal birth chart, it's also going to show you where you gain blessings, luck, and fortune. So the Jupiter sign can show you how you do this, whilst the Jupiter house can show you where you do this. So for example, if you have Jupiter in the 3rd house, you can gain fortune through your early education. Maybe you were that person in class who was just seen as a really smart individual, and so you caught a lucky break from that. Or maybe you have Jupiter in the 5th house. You can perhaps gain fortune through sports, suggesting here that maybe you were just a really great basketball player, and maybe you got a lot of praise for being a great basketball player. And on that note, the placement of Jupiter can show you where you seek worship and praise. So if you have Jupiter in the 7th house, maybe you seek worship and praise from other people, and so you subconsciously praise others in order for them to return the favor. Likewise, if you have Jupiter in the 9th house, maybe you seek worship and praise for your knowledge and understanding of the world around you. Maybe you praise scholars and professors and philosophers, or maybe you seek to be praised for your guidance and for the information that you share and broadcast with others. Keeping in mind here that Jupiter does also look at guides and gurus, and these people can come in many different forms. Whether we seek guidance from a friend, or guidance from God, or guidance from a tarot card reader on YouTube. So let's now address the 9th house within the natal birth chart. So the 9th house, it really corresponds with your higher learning and education. See, it's the 3rd house opposite that is associated with your early schooling. So looking at the likes of nursery school, primary school, elementary, preschool, and also high school to a point. But it is the 9th house that is really associated with the likes of university, college, advanced training, postgraduate programs, and grad school, so on and so forth. Therefore, it is the 9th house that really does look at you furthering your knowledge, but it's also a house of understanding. See, during our early education, being the 3rd house, we absorb information like a sponge. We are highly impressionable, especially from that age. When we are within the early schooling system, we're very young, and therefore we're highly susceptible to whatever we take in from the environment around us. But as we grow, as we get older, our awareness, it starts to heighten, and our learning capacity then deepens and also widens. we also discover that things aren't quite what they seem. Because, for example, we may realize through new knowledge later on in life, we may realize through that knowledge that the things we once knew potentially was misinformation. So a teacher in primary school teaching you a lesson on science, for example, that just may completely contradict what you then later go on to learn in university from a professor in your biology class. Basically, you learn a new piece of information later on in your life that counter-argues a piece of information that you learned from your earlier life. But not only that, well, you also discover and start to understand what things actually mean. Mercury in the 3rd house is just more about gathering up a lot of information and then delivering that information. It can also be connected with regurgitating information. But Jupiter and the 9th house is more about drawing up and delivering and sharing conclusions. And like I said, understanding the information. And also keeping in mind that Mercury rules over the 6th house, and it's within the 6th house that we start to really use discernment and we start to critique the information. But with this back and forth between the 3rd house and the 9th house, well, let's look at an example of Capricorn ruling the 3rd with Cancer ruling the 9th opposite. You may gather the facts in a useful and practical way, but then you may share your conclusions in a rather emotional and sensitive way. Likewise, if you have Scorpio ruling the 3rd house with Taurus ruling the 9th house opposite, you may gather the facts and the information in a rather deep and investigative way, but then you will share your conclusions in a grounded and steady, practical way. The 9th house, that is all about seeking, discovering, questioning the bigger picture and understanding wider concepts and principles. It's a house where we seek to know why things happen the way they do. This is also a house that rules over religion and philosophy. It's really where we seek meaning, perhaps as a way to cope or deal with suffering or pain. Therefore, this is a house of direction. It's where we seek to know why the heck we are here and what all of this means, what it's all about. So do you find meaning through God, or is there a certain philosophy that you live your life according to? And it's also this house that encourages us to think in more abstract, intuitive, and philosophical ways. It goes beyond the facts and logic and concrete ways of thinking, and it's much more symbolic in comparison to the 3rd house. Keeping in mind though that logic and facts are still pretty damn necessary and important. Though still, it is the 9th house that is much more about insight and intuition. It thinks more in terms of patterns and images and themes. So for example, if you have Leo ruling your 9th house, you may gain a sense of pride from how well you can identify patterns and themes within your studies. Or if you have Aquarius ruling your 9th house, you may use the patterns that you do discover in a much more scientifically proven way. Now, like I said, the 9th house also rules over the likes of religion and philosophy, but ultimately it rules over belief systems overall, whether those beliefs are philosophical, religious, moral, ethical, or spiritual. Basically, planets in the 9th house or the sign ruling your 9th house, they will provide an indication as to how you address these very things. Another thing to mention when it comes to the 9th house is that it's a house of broadcasting and publishing. It does rule over promotion, journalism, and advertising. And this is a rather important point to make, because the 10th house, which is the house after the 9th house, well, this 10th house is all about career and purpose and social status, but the 9th house really does look at how you promote or broadcast or publish yourself to potential employers or to others overall. So for example, if you have Libra ruling your 9th, but then Scorpio ruling your 10th, You may promote yourself or broadcast yourself to be this peacekeeper, to be a mediator, as a way to enter into a career where you are in control. Or if you have Aries ruling your 9th, but then Taurus ruling your 10th, you may promote yourself as a leader as a way to enter into a career that really does acknowledge your worth and your value. Also keeping in mind that the 9th house does look at higher education as explained. So looking at the likes of your degree, looking at your qualifications, looking at your experiences that you accumulate, and then you bring these very things into your potential career. Meaning that the 9th house really does look at the education and the experiences that you gain as a way to push yourself into the right direction towards your chosen career. Now, another quick thing that I want to mention is how the 9th house is also the house of long distance travel. And this corresponds with experience and discovering other cultures that exist. It's through such travel experiences that we learn a great deal about the world that we live in. However, we don't have to physically travel to do this, because this can be performed through the likes of reading or studying or meeting new people from different countries within your own country. And like I said earlier, the 9th house also looks at the Supreme Courts. It looks at law. So laws that govern your actions within your society. Meaning that the 9th house can signify legal proceedings and trials, and it can also look at code of ethics. So for example, what are the code of ethics for the police forces within the UK? Or what are the code of ethics when it comes to IT practitioners within the likes of Canada? These types of questions come to light through the 9th house. Overall, it is the sign of Sagittarius that signifies growth, expansion, knowledge, experience, and moreness. And it's these very things that can manifest into whichever house or area of life that Sagittarius rules within your natal birth chart. It is then Jupiter that can show you both how and where you go about creating more, whilst also seeking knowledge and freedom and meaning. And lastly, it is the 9th house that will show you how you broadcast or publish your truth, how you form your belief systems, how you approach long distance travel, and how you approach your higher education. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my really long introduction video to Sagittarius season, to the archetype of Sagittarius. Now again, let us know your Sagittarius placements, your 9th house placement, your Jupiter placement within the comment section down below. But with all that being said, I hope you find this video to be helpful. Thank you so much for watching, thank you for subscribing, and if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then go right ahead and click that subscribe button. And I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!